Hi, good morning. Good evening to everybody here at the webinar. My name is Aarti and I lead the sales for Wolken, and I'm going to be the host for today. And we're delighted to have all of you here join us for the webinar. So we have eminent speakers with us here, George, Christy, and Arun, who I'm going to be briefly introducing. But before that, as you know, the topic for today's webinar is how does KCS knowledge-centered service implementation enhance productivity in the ITSM environment. So with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker for the evening, George Spalding. He is going to be talking briefly about the overall KCS as an industry and the journey. And he's the Executive Vice President, Pink Elephant. In addition to co-authoring ITIL version 3 Continuous Service Improvement Volume, George Spalding has been awarded the Ron Moon's Lifetime Achievement Award from HDI and is one of the world's most insightful and engaging ITSM and IT support experts. George holds the ITIL version 3 expert, ITIL for Managing Professionals designation. In addition to his extensive commitment to improving the overall industry in the service support space, he has been regularly authoring IT articles, white papers, and you would often see him at global ITSM conferences and events. So with that, over to George. Please take the floor.
Thanks, Artie. So, I guess one of the things that when I look back in the past career, one of the things that I've done is I did co-author the Continual Service Improvement Volume for ITIL version 3. That was about 15 years ago, believe it or not, that was published. So the concept of improvement is near and dear to my heart. Could we move the slide one step forward? The way that this works is when I bring up in classes or consulting assignments, etc., or elements that I deal with, the concept of improvement, just the concept of improvement. Everyone universally says, absolutely, improvement, super important. Nothing could be more important than improvement. Improvement is just fantastic. Yeah, we really should do some of that. And they keep saying that, and they keep saying that. And what they really say is improvement is super important, and I wish that we had time to do it. Hold on this slide. So when we do improvement, or when we think about improvement as a concept, everyone's in agreement. That's not the issue. The issue becomes, how do we actually implement it? What do we actually do in order to improve? So when we think of improvement, we're talking about lessons learned. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes. I also want to believe that there's always improvement possible, that we always should be moving forward, that there's always a better way, some better way to do it. And when we look at IT and we look at the operational elements within IT, that's not that complicated. We've got the service desk, which is always talking about improvement. Of course, they're talking about solving issues and getting users back up and running, those kinds of things. So we have a lot of service desk metrics. Some of the metrics we would actually use in an improvement initiative. Other metrics we would use as maybe incentive to improve because the metrics aren't exactly great. Service requests, we would look at that and say, okay, we have a service request management or fulfillment process. And a request means something, not that something's wrong, but something, I need something. I need some information. I need a piece of this. I need something installed. I need something. So one of the things we measure with that is we measure whether that's, first of all, is it a manual or automated process? Have we created basically a little mini Amazon.com, or is this completely manual where we're talking to the service desk asking for things? Incident management becomes super important because incident management is where we get people back up and running, where we get them productive again. We fix what's wrong. Incidents mean something that worked isn't working anymore. So therefore we fix it. And what do we care about? We care about speed. We care about time, mean time to repair, mean time to restore service. So we're trying to improve the lives of the customer. But let's be honest, incident management is not a permanent improvement. We're fixing something right for the moment. We're not fixing it for all time. That's problem management. So when we start talking about real improvement, we start getting to something like problem management. Now we start talking, we say, okay, are we going to do simple workarounds to get people back up and running, or are we going to try and go all the way for permanent solutions? So problem management in many cases is the first piece we have that looks like a real permanent improvement in the way that we operate. Because hopefully the goal of problem management is that these things don't come around again. We never see them again. Change management, of course, is the number one thing we do with change management right off the bat is do risk assessment. So we're now looking at, and if you think of change in the world of IT service management, when you think of infrastructure change and normal changes in IT, by definition, you're improving things. So the concept of improvement is pretty much embedded in almost every one of the key operational elements that we do in IT. We have asset versus config. We're looking to keep track of things, and we're looking to make sure that that we know exactly what the status is of any given asset or any given configuration item. Great. All right. Now, let's take another look at something else. What might get in the way, since we all believe improvement is super important, what might get in the way of us going ahead and improving things? The biggest answer ends up being the urgent work versus important work issue, where we always find ourselves in this firefighting mode of something's gone wrong, I have to go fix it. I don't really have time to do the permanent improvement. Sorry, but I got to go fix it. And when you look at every single one of these, what ends up being the common element in play as we move forward and try and make the lives better of both the people in IT and the business stakeholders? The end is knowledge. Next slide, please. Knowledge. When I go out into the field, when I go into IT shops and I bring up the concept of knowledge management, people look at me with blank stares. They go, well, sounds important. Knowledge seems really important. No, we don't have a knowledge management group. Do you have anyone else do you have anyone who actually is accountable for the success of the practice? No, we don't have a practice. Does anyone own the artifacts, different artifacts of knowledge? Don't know what you mean. Is there a team? Is a system actually designated to house the knowledge? If so, then how do we access that system? How do we search it? How do we index it? How do we find it? How do we get the value out of all the effort it's going to take to actually have that level of knowledge and make it useful and move forward? And is the knowledge tailored in some way to a specific group of consumers, the consumers of the knowledge? So you would put different knowledge in if the consumer was the service desk versus the consumer being the end users. There would be differences in how you would phrase it, what the knowledge article would look like, the kind of vocabulary you would use. And how do people even know about this? So let's assume you've done all this work and you've put all this effort into who's going to communicate it or market it, and who maintains it. This is a big task, the concept of maintaining knowledge and editing it and tweaking it and constantly updating it, keeping it fresh. That's a big deal. And once again, just like improvement, no one argues about the value of knowledge. Nobody argues about it until it comes down to actually seeing it and using it. I go into places there, the knowledge exists, but it's spread out over a dozen systems and no one really has any way of finding it. And nobody knows about anyone else's system. The systems seem to be very siloed, very focused on one given technology or one given group or one given department or one given team. So is there any real recognition that this is a singular valuable asset? And that this could actually, this knowledge that's already there, already contained, maybe not in systems, frighteningly, maybe in people's heads, that this could save time and money? I think that KCS, Knowledge Center Service, that's been talked about for beginning 30 years ago, could be the answer. And I'm going to turn it over to Christy to take it from here.
Thanks so much, George, for setting the context. That was really insightful, and it's great that you're emphasizing the importance of KCS. With that, I invite our next speaker, Christy Morin, and I'll do a quick round of introduction for her. So Christy is the Customer Success Manager at Broadcom, and she brings with her about 20 years of experience in the enterprise software customer support industry. Christy's specialty is working with organizations to drive the value of self-service programs to deliver an exceptional customer service while reducing the operational cost. She has worked with various CRM solutions in creating knowledge systems and self-service programs to reduce the resolution time. She holds a bachelor's degree in computer science and has multiple certifications as PMP, ITIL, KCS version 6, and Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. Christy resides in Colorado, and she enjoys an active lifestyle. And with that, over to Christy.
Thank you, Artie, and thank you, George. That was a great introduction. You can go to the next slide. There you go. So, George laid this great foundation about what KCS is. And so knowledge-centered service, or KCS, focuses on knowledge management, and George already hinted to, right? It used to be called knowledge-centered support and was more commonly thought of just as it typically was used in support organizations. Like George mentioned, it could be internal, it could be for the agents, it could be for the customers. But what we started to see is as we use knowledge to solve problems, it was relevant to any organization. It wasn't just customer support, it could be IT, it could be HR, it could be finance. And so with that, the name changed. And so now it's actually called knowledge-centered service, meaning in any service organization, knowledge-centered methodology can be applied. So the KCS methodology was founded by a consortium for service innovation. So George, you mentioned HDI and holding HDI, I believe it was lifetime, it was accreditation from HDI, it's the Help Desk Institute, right? And so the group of leaders came together years ago, I think it was about 20 years ago, and started working on what would it look like if we actually formally structured knowledge practices. We know that there's some common themes, some common reusability parts. And so it's a nonprofit consortium of industry recognized leaders that set in the foundation and still today continually work on the practices. So some of the names on here, the major players that contributed over to the years, right? BMC and Microsoft and Cisco and Oracle, companies that you probably have heard of that helped contribute over the years and still do contribute today, as well as many other members of the consortium. So they do have a website. So free information, right? How to get started, what to do next, a set of practices, a set of values that they embody, and an adoption guide as a way to get started in your organization or take the next steps. So the whole premise of what KCS does is that it's the way you solve problems. And how you do that is by creating and curating content, right? As I mentioned, it's a methodology, it's a process, very similar to to ITIL and how you do service desk management, it's another practice or discipline that you would apply to actually the questions that George just asked. Who owns it? Where does it live? How do we use it? How do we create it? When do we improve it? All of those questions is what this KCS methodology will help you devise a plan for. So the key, though, is to embed it as part of the workflow. So it's not something seen as extra you do, right? We all believe it's great when you can go to Google or any search engine, type in a question and get a knowledge artifact, if that be a YouTube video or a knowledge document. We all believe in the power of knowledge. It's just a practice to actually do it within our own respective companies and disciplines and having the tools that support that. But the more that you can embed it into your workflow, the better the solution will be adopted and used. But it moves away from content and knowledge of others and individuals, and I have everything in my notebook, to our collection of experience, and that we all share and grow from it. So when we talk about, it also seeks to empower, to celebrate and to reward sharing learning. So no longer do we applaud the engineer that spent, all weekend long solving a problem, and now he owns this tribal knowledge of how to get out of that situation, to the engineers that take the time to capture maybe what they learned in that scenario and other scenarios and share it with others, so that way we can solve problems faster. So ultimately, there's this saying that's used very commonly in KCS, which is solve once, use often. Go to the next slide. So how does it relate, right? So you might already see some similarities, but it's pretty basic, right? So as George mentioned, ITIL is best practices in delivering IT service management, right? What are the best practices in delivering, problem and incident support and all the things that we deal with in our common day-to-day lives. And so complementary to that, KCS is the best practice methodology when working with knowledge, ultimately delivering improved service delivery, right? Decrease cost and improve customer outcomes. And who doesn't want to take less time to do more and make people happy, right? Sounds great. Next slide. So there are many benefits to KCS. So the consortium has a list of repeatable benefits that customers have routinely on average achieved, even maybe done better, maybe done a little bit less based on the industry that they're in. But it's very common that you can achieve metrics out of the gate once you implement KCS as a methodology in an organization. And that's being at the smaller enterprise level. It's definitely robust enough for any size of a company. So KCS is wanting customers to use knowledge, right? The whole term self-service, the whole being able to find it on their own, get on their day. And when they really do need to contact us for problem management, we now have the bandwidth and the time to actually help them, because some of the noise in the system of the repeatable issues we know have been solved with self-service. So there's a saying in self-service that says, if it's problems worth solving, then it's worth capturing as knowledge. Right, it becomes a new repository, even if it's internally shared or not externally shared with our customers. So in return, after creating content, as we know from how we solve problems, we then review what is being used, right? Or we say what's in demand to improve it. Maybe with something we learned, maybe something that has changed, maybe it's something that was an extra step or wasn't what caused a different type of question. So we're constantly, as George started off in the beginning, this continuous improvement. It seems like the thing of life, right? We're never really, we get to a certain phase, but we always have to improve, right? Because knowledge might be absolutely correct right in the moment, but then as the clock starts ticking, it gets outdated, and it just happens, right? So we're always improving the content, the process of the product, to improve the process of their product. So this in turn drives more adoption and improvement of our products through the use of self-service, finding content to solve problems, reducing the resources needed to solve those problems, and by answering recurring questions. Next slide. So one of the things about that KCS that I think that would be important to you guys on the phone, if you're interested in this, is that it actually very similar to IDLE, which is on version 4. I was a practitioner at version 1 back in the day, but it offers personal certifications, right? And that is important because that's lifetime scalability. So there's 4 different certifications that they offer. One is a fundamentals. So if you just wanted to get your feet wet with what KCS does, there's a fundamentals online exam. The next one, which is more commonly if you're practicing KCS as a program manager or a team leader within your team, is the KCS practices certification. And then if you really enjoy what you're doing as a KCS practitioner, you can actually get the trainer certification. And so that would be suitable for you going into organizations training on the KCS methodology for people in turn then to possibly take the KCS version 6 practices certification. And then a spin to that is the internal certification. And I know this is high level to go into certifications, but as I was mentioned a couple of slides ago, if you go to the consortium website, the information's free on how you would get started with running a KCS practice, the values of what the KCS, the whole methodology embodies, as well as the principles that you need to follow. But with this, I think what's key and important for today's call is that it's important that a tool support KCS. So on the next slide. And the reason why we're here today talking about this is also to allow Wolken to demonstrate how they're working towards supporting KCS practices. So when you talk about those 4 individual certifications, there's also 2 tool certifications. So being aligned is like maybe being a search engine or analytics engine that supports some of the KCS practices, and the tool can become an aligned vendor after going through the certification process. Or if a tool is a incident or a case management tool and a knowledge base like Wolken is, it can seek to be a verified tool, which meaning it supports all of the practices for KCS as a complete tool. And so Wolken has been working on seeking certification for the verified tools. And so what I'd like to do next is pass it to Arun to take us through a few demos of some of the key features of the Wolken application and how it supports KCS. So Arun, over to you.
Thanks, Christy. That was indeed quite a few data points that the audience here would take back with them for their KCS journey and adoption, and of course, continual improvement. With that, I invite Arun Patil to showcase the Wolken software demo as well as share his experiences on the implementation. I'll just do a quick round of introduction for him before he gets started. So Arun Patil is the Vice President and Product R&D lead at Wolken Software. Arun Patil is a KCS version 6 practices certified professional with over 10 years of IT experience. He has worked in various domains like banking, CRM, ITSM, etc. And at Wolken, he has led various product implementations. In addition to that, he has been the key person responsible for the KB implementation, as well as in alignment with the KCS guidelines for Wolken KB module. He leads the R&D activities at Wolken Software. With that, Arun, over to you.
Thank you, Aarti. Thank you, Christian George, for providing a very good insight about KCS and its importance in the ITSM world. Now, I'll just take you through a quick demo covering these features. To begin with KB search with permission model, filtering and sorting capabilities, and case deflection flow. Then we'll see how to resolve the tickets using KB, followed by article workflow, which covers creation of the articles, approval flow, feedback module, versioning, and subscription. Then we will see KB dynamic views, followed by KB dashboards and admin configurations, which covers KB roles, knowledge bases, KB category, and etc. Finally, we'll see search engine optimization via Google indexing. So let me share my screen. So this is the KB search screen. So Wolken has a very powerful search engine, which helps us, getting relevant articles and the permitted articles. The permission model is built, permission model is configurable based on the client's requirement. When I say permission model, what articles should be visible to whom? So say I'm just searching ITSM, then based on the permission model and the keywords I have searched, the results will be shown to the user. So to assist further the searching capabilities, we have a filtering options based on the article attributes. Like you can see article type, KB status, KB knowledge base, and KB categories. Also, we have sorting capabilities. 1 minute. Yeah, sorting capabilities where on various parameters like created time, updated time, views, and likes. So using these two options, we can narrow down the search to get our most relevant articles. So one use case where this KB search comes handy is case deflection flow. So when I say case deflection, it is nothing but preventing the customers from creating duplicate tickets or tickets for a known issue by rendering the solutions to them upfront via KB search. So let me take a use case. A user is creating a ticket and he fills in all the fields and he starts, say he wants to see the how to change the password or something. Then when the customer writes, right, the subject, the system will pre-populate with the relevant articles, and the customer can go through these articles, and if he finds a solution, then he can go through the article details completely, and if he finds a solution, then he can avoid the case creation. So this way the tickets or the duplicate tickets numbers can be reduced, which in turn reduces the human effort required, and ultimately we can have a very cost effective support system. So now we have seen how to avoid the duplicate creation. Now we'll see how do we resolve the incidents using this knowledge base. So the system will pre-populate the articles based on the subject of the ticket, and it will render the relevant articles. So the agent, he can go through these articles, and if he finds a relevant article, then he can just map or associate this article to this ticket. So when he does so, a notification will be sent to the customer with all the article details and the links to the articles. So the customer can go through those articles and try to resolve his issues. This way, our solution will be very faster with very less turnaround time. So as per the cases consortium, it is believed that up to 50 to 60% of the resolution time will be improved. So now we have seen how to leverage the knowledge base. Now we will see how do we build it. So there are two ways to create the articles. So assume this ticket contains some useful information and you want to create an article out of it. Then there is a option. You can go to the knowledge base and create an article. So with one click, we are creating an article from that particular ticket with all the information will be pulled to this article. So based on the privilege I have, like whether I have an admin or author role, I'll be able to create the article or publish the article. So now I'll just try to create this article and send for an approval. So when I try to send it for an approval, based on the roles configured, the approvals list will be pre-populated. I can add a note and submit it for the approval process. So when I do so, a notification will be sent to all the approvers with the links to these articles, and the approver, when logs into the application and comes to this article, he can verify the content. He can cross-check against the organization standards using the AQI, that is nothing but article quality index. Let me show that option. So I can click on the feedback button, choose the review with AQI. When I do so, then we will populate the predefined questions. These questions will help us to assess the quality of the article. So these can be configured based on the company requirement. Let me answer the questions. So based on the assessment, a score will be calculated for this article. And if the approver feels that the article is fit for publishing, then he can approve it. Then the article will be published and it will be available for customer usage. Assume if he sees there is a scope for improvement, then he can return this article for further review to the author. The author can rework on the article based on the comments, and then he can republish or resubmit for the approval. So apart from this, if any agent wants to provide a general feedback to this article, then he can come to the feedback, then select the general feedback option, then he can provide a general feedback. So, and all these feedbacks we are showing in the AQS section. These feedbacks will help us to improve the quality of these articles. So apart from this, the tool supports versioning of the article. Say, for example, you can see here there are multiple versions. So this helps to reuse the previous published articles for the future reference. One can go to any of the versions and make it as a current version and use it, or modify the content, and then you can publish it. So apart from this, we have one more option or one more feature called subscription. When I subscribe, right, and when I subscribe, I continuously get, I do get notifications for any updates that happens to this article. So this way, the user will be kept updated about the article's updates. So, so now we have seen how do we build the knowledge base system. Now we will see how do we measure that how effectively the knowledge base is being used or utilized. So for that, we have one feature called KB reports. So this is the KB search report, which gives you information about what was searched. That is, what is the keywords or what is the text that was searched, who had searched, and when it was searched, and more importantly, how many matching records were rendered for that search. So based on this search count, right, so we can know which articles or which topics have very less articles or no articles. Accordingly, we can focus on those areas and build the articles to have a very robust KB system. Apart from this, we have one more option, one more feature called link accuracy. What it does is it helps a manager to assess his team members whether they are efficiently using the KB system or not. So assume I want to assess one of my reportee, say this guy, and the system will populate all the closed tickets by this agent in the last 1 week. So this gives details about the tickets and the articles that are mapped to this. So as a KCS coach, I can just ensure that if this mapping was done properly, or if it was improper mapping, or if there was a scope for mapping in this case where there is no article mapping itself was not done. So I can select one of these options saying, yes, there was a mapping, or I can select there was no mapping and there was a scope for creation of the articles, and then save it against this. So this way I'll capture the data and generate a report and share it with the manager so that we can give a proper feedback to the agents and push them to use a KB system or the articles to solve the incidents, which helps in a faster resolution and a higher customer satisfaction. So next we will see a certain KB admin functionalities wherein what additional capabilities we are giving to the KB admins. So let me go to the KB configuration page. So these are the various options or ability admin has. So to begin with, we have KB roles. By default, we will give 4 roles, that is author role, review role, admin role, and KCS coach. The admin has the capability to associate these roles to his team members or the agents. Next, we have a knowledge base. The knowledge base is nothing but a top level segregation of articles, which helps to categorize the articles at a top level, and admin can associate these knowledge bases to the agents. So which defines accessibility. So next we have KB categories, which helps in further categorizing the articles within the knowledge base. Next we have KB templates. These are the templates which can be used in the article creation. So the admin can create it, and so that the author can reuse these articles during the article creation, so that all the articles will follow a standard format across the organization. So next, we have seen what are the admin capabilities. Then we will see next feature called as dynamic view. So basically, Wolken provides a place where you can see all the articles present in the system. So basically here, sorry. So basically here we can see all the articles, and if a user wants to see a customized view of it, right? So he can go to the filters, he can add conditions based on the article attributes, and he can save it for his future reference. Next, but not the least, we will see the search engine optimization. So when I say search engine optimization, it's all about, improving the quality and quantity of the traffic that is coming to our KB articles. This at Wolken, we have implemented this via Google indexing, wherein we are trying to push the published articles to the Google search engine, and where we do indexing of it. And whenever we user searches in the Google, then these articles will be coming as a search results. So that is cases-driven Wolken KB module. I must say, cases is a journey, not a destination, and I would recommend every one of you to be part of this journey along with the Wolken. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Arun. That was a fantastic overview of Wolken. Very, very interesting. And with that, we come to the end of the content that our eminent speakers wanted to share with you, and we will open the floor for some question answers. I can already see some questions that have come in from some of the audience here. And I'll request George, Christy, and Arun to step in based on the questions that they would like to address. The first question is, how difficult is it to implement the KCS best practices in the KB module? So, Christy, would you like to take that?
Yep.
That sounds like,
yeah.
Go ahead, Christy.
Well, it's as hard as you make it. No, it's I think one of the things about the Wolken tool is that's set up to be easily configurable. That there's templates, there's a configuration panel that you can change. So one of the last things that Ruben demonstrated or demoed was the KB configuration. So you can set up, the types of roles and the categories and templates that you want. So it's trying to be more plug and play than needing, and sometimes in tools that we buy, you need a lot of consulting and a lot of services to come trooping in to set it up. This is designed to be very easy with a very quick path going forward.
Thank you, Christy.
Do you want to add anything into that to run? Because there's another question there too that's more about, how do you customize? And so I know that you showed the configuration tool, but that's the heart of it.
Yeah. Thanks, Christy. There are some other questions that have popped up as well. So Deepak here says, going forward, how do we make the KCS-driven KB module more effective? So George, Christy, Arun, who would like to?
I think.
Well, let me before you get specific, Arun. One of the things that is, okay, I think people will start to see that one of the challenges with KCS, I think it's the biggest challenge all around, is that everyone has to get involved and has to buy in to the basic philosophy that we're going to record knowledge. We're going to take it out of our head and we're going to put it on this system. And the system's great. And it's a cultural discussion of, am I supposed to put this fire out right this second? Or am I going to take a minute, get the knowledge in so that we can put that fire out again and again and again and again and again? And that is the biggest challenge, I think, sometimes in getting KCS in. It's the fact that we have to, in many cases, change a little bit of the instinct of the people who are using the system of having to go fix it right then, as opposed to taking a minute. Let's create some knowledge. Let's make this universally acceptable and make it universally distributed. So anyway, that's all I had to say.
Sure.
Okay, hit yours, Arun.
Arun, you were saying something.
Yeah, I'll just wanted to add a couple of points to the question. Say, how do we make the cases-driven KP model more effective? So, as we mentioned in the demo, there are two things. One is, cases reports, which gives you a brief idea about what are the topics, what are the articles, or what are the areas that needs more scope or more articles to be created. So that way we can build a robust KB system. That is one point. And secondly, we can, using the link accuracy and the reports, right, we can monitor whether our agents are using the KB system effectively or not. So if we do the monitoring of these 2 points, I think we will be having a very effective KB model in the system. Thank you.
Thanks, Arun. So the next question that I would like to throw at the speakers is, I think this would be more for Arun. Are there APIs to leverage search results in Wolken's knowledge base? Arun, would you like to address that?
Yeah, so are there APIs to leverage search in Wolken's knowledge base? Yes, absolutely. We do have a robust OAuth-based, REST APIs exposed out of the box, where we can do all the operations, whatever I just demoed in the now. So all those operations can be achieved over the REST APIs as well. Yes.
Sure. Thanks, Arun. And Rajesh is asking, how do you ensure that the results are accurate and relevant?
Okay, let me take this up. So at Wolken, what we do, whenever we index the data, we do the parsing using customized analyzers. We have built customized tokenizers. We have built customized filters. So using these things, we remove all the stop words like common English words and index only those keywords which will be helpful to identify the rankings and then give the most relevant or most accurate research results.
Thanks, Arun. The next question is also from the audience. It's an anonymous question. It was mentioned that KCS can help employee retention. How exactly the KCS will help with that? George and
Christy, you want to take this up?
So my comment would be that, sometimes in a support organization, you can train 6 months on a product before you're proficient to support it. And so this reduces the time that's needed to be proficient or an expert to be able to know what you're talking about. If you know how to search to find answers, it can help you in your knowledge learning also to accelerate faster. And to be able to have small wins in solving problems by finding answers that other people have already documented versus always having to reinvent the wheel yourself. George, would you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I also think, especially when you're at a service desk and you're responding to questions and issues all day, I think that this kind of a system and that KCS in general can actually make you feel more successful. I think you feel more successful at your job. You're actually moving the company forward. You're doing what I call, it's productivity insurance. You're making people more productive and they feel better. You feel better. You want to stay in your job.
Excellent. Thanks, Christy, and thanks, George. I think with that, we've addressed most of the questions. And thanks so much for addressing the queries from the audience, and thanks to the audience for an active participation and putting out your questions to our speakers. And what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be sharing the webinar link with you all post the event. And in case you would like to share it with your colleagues, feel free to do that. And I'm sure that all of you are taking back from today's webinar quite a few data points. Despite of where you are in your KCS journey, I'm sure there would be something for you to reflect on. And the only message in the end that I would like to leave you all with is solve once and use often. So with that, we come to the end of our webinar today. Thanks again to all the audience joining from different continents. Thank you. Good night, good evening, good morning.